How are you? Mario Leone from Voices of Victory channel. And today's episode is going to be on the main things in 2026 that are impacting people's identities. I got my show notes right here on my mark and whiteboard just to keep it nice and simple. So we're going to start off going upwards. We're climbing till we hit 10,000 feet. And here goes. So today's episode is really going to be the major things that are impacting people's identities in 2026. The very first thing is going to be straightforward. It's going to be the social media feeds, the actual social media feeds. Your social media feed is something you interact with. And every time you like something or dislike something, what it's doing is rewiring and adjusting that math to create a social media diet that gets adjusted and fed back to you. So you can call it the social media buffet, the algorithmic buffet. You click like or dislike on certain things. The dislike obviously would rule things out and the likes would rule things in. So this way it would constantly feed that information towards you. And it all is based on the algorithms and the math. That's what it's all about. So the feeds create this social media diet, and that diet is impacting your psychology, but it's also molding your life into a certain direction. That's why people do social media. That's why they do it, because they know how much of an impact it has on your own identity. Outside of that, let's jump to the next key point, which is comparison culture. So watching social media, doing that, getting involved in, like, here you are, you're on my YouTube channel, right? You're here. We could understand that you're here for some kind of impact positively towards yourself. And with comparison culture, we live in a world where people want to be in like Flynn and in with the Joneses, with the Joneses. It's all about comparison. See, judgment is an internal aspect of who we are. There's evaluation and then there's judgment. Our minds have a tendency to wander, and then our minds have the tendency to make decisions. But in between wandering and decision is literally your inner critic or inner judge. So dealing with social media, our inner critic and inner judge is actually getting worse because of the comparison culture. Because we're constantly evaluating and comparing things all the time, that inner critic and inner judge is actually worsening. It's getting more strict, more difficult, more judgmental, and that's what's happening. Everybody's got to either label, have an opinion, whatever the case may be. That inner critic and inner judge starts firing off. What most people don't get is that inner critic and inner judge has to go inward at some point. So if you judge someone at 2 p.m., that same mechanism will go inward and judge yourself at 2 a.m. And that's where it gets really difficult and painful for people emotionally. So with comparison culture, what does it really do? We're watching a lot of social media, and the different social media that's out there, it's all measured. Everything in there is being edited. It's an edited truth. It's not the actual truth. It's perceptual. People are editing their videos in order to carve out that version of the truth that they want you to actually have. So it's measured by edits. So it's not the whole deal. And what tends to happen is we have the tendency to omit and leave things out. So let me give you an example of what I mean. If you recall a particular memory in your life, chances are you don't remember that memory perfectly. Your brain will edit that memory. You'll get bits and pieces, sounds over here, voices over here. And the more traumatic it is, the harder it is to recall. But we don't remember memories fully. We remember bits and pieces, and we draw meaning from these things. And sometimes when we draw meaning, we're not drawing the meaning based on everything, based on the full memory. So social media itself also gives us bits and pieces, edited truth from other people. It gives us bits and pieces. And what tends to happen with that is this comparison culture starts to kick in. You're measuring things based on how they were edited. So you can't take the full picture. You're not taking in the full bit of information. Just like a memory that's not full and complete is a video that's also not full and complete. And your brain likes to create shortcuts over that. And that's where it gets really interesting. Our brain creates shortcuts. We have a mental recipe. It's called a schema. It's a mental recipe in the way we actually look at the world. So we want to have that mental shortcut for our reality. So the comparison culture is literally measured by how things are edited and how things are compared. And what tends to happen is we may not take in the entire picture. We're just getting fed partial information. So our brain starts to form a narrative and form a story based off of what is partial. This is why people tend to get upset when you ask them, what brought you to that conclusion? What brought you to that idea? Oh, well, this person said it over here and that person said it over here, so it's got to be true. It has to be that way. So that comparison culture is a mental shortcut for us, and we want to judge if something is good or bad quickly, not realizing there's not just good, there's not just bad, but there's also neutral in between. And some people are becoming very polarized. There's only good, there's only bad, not going to bad and going to good. There's this transition in the middle that occurs. You start to become objective when you're able to see all sides. It becomes a superpower. The next one, which is also impacting people's identities for 2026, is literally survival mode. Yes, survival mode. People who are having difficult times in their life, they're in survival mode. Not everyone, but people are. When you get into survival mode, it's not growth mode. Okay, let me give you an example. I worked in business with a nonprofit once, and this nonprofit wanted to come up with a solution so they could actually, get more donations so they could stay afloat. And what I did was I came up with a very strong system that they could devise that would allow them to utilize it right away and get a massive amount of donations that's going to support them. They couldn't do it. They could not do it. Their brains were in survival mode so much that they couldn't see the benefit, even though I did all the math for them. I've actually proved that it will work. I explained it fully and functionally how it would work and how it would support their organization. But they're in survival mode. They couldn't possibly, their awareness it's blocked. So when you're in survival mode, your ability to see goes from this to this. It becomes narrower, okay? So because you're in survival mode, there's fear, and fear will narrow down how you look at things. So that holds itself true. So survival mode does not equal growth mode, okay? Growth mode is where it's really important. Having that growth, very important. You want to be in growth mode. There's the fixed-based mindset. Fixed means this is all I could do. It's a fixed belief. This is all I am. This is who I am. This is all I can do. I can't do anything else. Growth means I'm always learning. I have that ability to do that. And when you're in survival mode, it makes it very difficult. It puts you more in a fixed state. It puts you more in a fear-based state. So you may not be able to see everything all the time. So keep that in mind. Survival mode does not equal growth mode, okay? Moving right along. Another thing that's impacting the identity of people for 2026 is the split avatar concept. I call it split avatar. It's really simple. It's having 3 different social media accounts. You're portraying yourself differently on all 3. Okay? There's no consistency of each one. You're one person on one, then another, then another. So what's happening is your identity gets divided across 3. So with this is creating 3 different avatars, 3 different versions of yourself. And you're trying to keep up with your stories on each. And what happens is you start to go here, there, there. Your identity starts to break apart into 3. Basically what happens. So what I want you to understand is it's not the fact that you have all 3, is that they're inconsistent. So if you have 3 and they're all consistent with each other, that's actually strong for your identity, okay? And what tends to happen is people may not understand how they can blend those 3 together in a healthy way because they've gotten so used to keeping up with the different narratives and stories. So this is the split avatar concept, okay, that happens when people just divide themselves across 3 different forms of social media. So this all impacts, and in closing to the show on this one, is that all of these things impact the identity. Your identity is not a fixed concept. It's not something that's fixed, finished, or complete. You're always self-updating. You're always self-updating your identity. And when you say you're going to do something and then you do it, that actually will strengthen your identity. If you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, that actually can hurt your identity. Okay, that's where you betray yourself. The same thing holds true in relationships, is that you go towards a relationship where you say you're going to do something and then you do it. It proves that you're honest. It proves trust. Okay, it proves trust to yourself, but it also proves trust to the other person as well. Whereas if I am trying to build trust with somebody and I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, not only do I betray myself, it hurts my own identity, but it also, the other person says, sorry, can't trust you anymore. You haven't proven yourself to me. And this is where we can understand the concept of values, and then we'll wrap it up right there. Values are not ideas. They're taking a concept and making it actionable. Honesty is a value, and it's actionable. And you have to be able to do the action to get to that evidence, to reinforce that. And that's all I'm going to say on this show. Thank you so much for stopping by. This is the Voices of Victory channel. You can visit me on Roku. So if you have a Roku, you can actually look for the Voices of Victory channel, the actual application, which links to all of the podcast episodes, all of the audios that are there. There's thousands of them. Outside of that, podbean.com, you can go to podbean.com, Voices of Victory channel, podbean.com. You're able to go there, and you could always contact me through the form there if you want to work with me on your identity. We could do that. And outside of that, you can find me on Apple, good old Apple Podcasts, Voices of Victory channel with Mario Leone. That's all I'm going to say. Have a great day. Enjoy yourself. And stay strong. Stay strong in your heart. Take care.